little more coffee. Millicano is pretty good. You know, it's probably the best instant coffee I've tried. Please recommend others. Hello, Mindcrack Ultra Hardcore fans. I'm back with my third episode, covering episode 4 of the Minecrack Ultra Hardcore series. Now, we left on a bit of I left on a bit of a cliffhanger last time. Last time we weren't quite sure how many members of the Ultra Hardcore team were going to end up making it to episode 5, because episode 4 looked like it was going to start with some pretty low health out there. Turns out we haven't actually lost anyone this episode, and we've actually seen improving states in most of the players. Of all the players in this series, unfortunately, Kurt J. Mack looks like he's come out this episode the worst. I hate saying episode, but really a collection of episodes which are all the same episode. It's a little hard. I'm not quite sure what the linguistic term would be there to describe it accurately. I'm sure someone knows. In any case, we haven't lost anyone this episode. We haven't lost anyone, and most people have come out of it in a better state than they entered it. Probably the biggest increase in fortunes has to be Badge. Badge started off in a pretty desperate state, having to run around the map at night trying to kill zombies so he could eat zombie flesh, because he was really down that low on food. A little bit of more creative editing from him, not an awful lot. This case, just a nice little starter. It just pads it out, makes it a little more enjoyable to watch. Not that it's not enjoyable to watch, because he's certainly picked up, and there were some nail-biting instances in this episode, particularly if you've been trying to follow them on the spawn map. After bringing up his health a bit with the zombie flesh, Badge then does a bit more caving and finds some more iron. His chest plate fortunately saves him from any damage in a creeper explosion, and he finally gets some steak and chicken, which takes him well back from the edge of starvation. Now he digs, finds a huge seam of gold as well. He's actually got 14 gold at one point, but no apples. He makes a tree farm, hoping for wood, but mostly hoping for apples. He manages to get himself together a full suit of iron. He's got bread and an iron sword, so he decides to go trekking and takes half a heart of damage from a spider. However, he ends up making himself quite a way to the east, on the edge of a swamp biome. Now, if anyone's been following Good, they know that Good is set in a swamp biome, and if you've been trying to follow these guys on the spawn map, you've been biting your nails just as hard as I was, because Badge was probably only 50 blocks or so from walking straight on top of Good's home. And although Good has been out a lot in this episode, he's been out wandering land. He originally went out trying to find that lava again, go back and get that, which he seems to have given up on this episode. He's probably going to continue that next episode, but he doesn't seem to be really bothered about getting to the nether, which is a shame because it really would help him out. So I reckon about the same time that Badge is practically on Good's doorstep, Good is out trekking to the north, trekking to the east, wandering around, seeing if he can see anyone, and killing more chickens than you could think existed in the world. Because of that, he's ended up with an awful lot of feathers, and he's already got a lot of flint, so he's now got a stack and a half of arrows and a bow. So he's going to be pretty lethal. He can fire off rapid fire as fast as he wants. In fact, he actually took out a skeleton with the bow at first and got another bow as a reward, as a drop from that skeleton. So if it was allowed in the game, he can now be dual wielding. Back to Badge briefly. While out in the swamp biome, he has managed to find red mushrooms to complement the brown mushrooms he already has on hand. He's found skeleton bones, so he's got bone meal, and now can grow his trees on demand. It doesn't sound like it's a bad thing. I suspect he probably will go back to that swamp biome since he knows where it is. And he may avoid meeting Good entirely at this point, because Good has made his intention that he's going to go head south, which would take him towards Vintage Beef. And at the moment, he's probably got the well up on Vintage Beef, though Vintage Beef does have an escape route in the form of that portal, if Vintage Beef chooses to stay around. But then Vintage Beef doesn't sound like he's going to. If you're following Beef's channel, you know it ended up on a cliffhanger, as he popped into the nether briefly to check his portal works, and ended up returning to someone else's base. Again, this is the portal influence problem. At first he suspects it's maybe Badge's base. Looking around, he sees two people far above him. He can't tell who they are, but doesn't seem to notice that when Paws dies, one of them vanishes. It's a little bit strange there, but he does seem to work it out later on once he realises it's Kurt. Figures Kurt, wolves, Kurt loves... He always has got Wolfie around with him in the Farlands or Bust series, so he works out who it is ahead of him, and keeps sneaking up on Kurt. There's a long staircase before you reach the top where Kurt is organising. He's built in a second chest, and he's using this to sort through the remains of Paws' inventory. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you're following Kurt's and Beef's streams, you were just screaming at the screen there when every time Kurt was turning his back on that stairwell, because you knew Beef was going to be coming up from behind him. Whether he was coming up, where he was coming up, when he was coming up, you couldn't tell, but you just knew he was going to be there. And it's only by pure luck that Beef didn't get the drop on Kurt. Kurt threw a few things out of his inventory, chucked them down the stairs just to get him out of the way, and as Beef was coming up the stairs, they automatically entered Beef's inventory with the characteristic pickup noise. Kurt noticed that, turns around, Beef's right there. Bit of a panic, Kurt drops water, Beef drops lava, because this is a tactic I was not aware of, I'm sure plenty of people are, that if you drop lava and someone burns up in lava, it doesn't count as weapon strike, because lava is obviously a naturally occurring block. So if Kurt's wolf was engaged, then it would not attack Beef for dropping that lava. However, at that point, Kurt had let his wolf sit outside. So Kurt is insanely lucky there. Obviously, if his wolf had been moving around, but able to move, then Beef might have still come off worse out of this confrontation. But unfortunately, if he hadn't picked up those couple of items, he probably could have got the drop on Kurt. Kurt's wolf would have been no help outside, and Kurt would have been out of it. However, as it stands, the cobble, turning the lava to cobble, blocked Beef off. Beef retreated far to the bottom of the staircase and began digging another staircase up parallel to the existing one, hoping to get the drop on Kurt. Kurt unfortunately freaks out a bit and runs around the area. However, when Kurt returns to the base, thinking that Baby Beef's going to fight his way up and follow him, he manages to get the 12 to 10 gold ingots out of Paws's chest just before a creeper sneaks up behind him and detonates, not only damaging him, bringing him down to just 1.5 hearts, it also kills his wolf. And it's a damn shame, because that was probably one of his strongest offensive and protective roles there. Unfortunately, night is falling, and a spider outside becomes re-aggravated. It becomes a hostile mob again, attacks him, taking him down to half a heart, which is just... you're thinking he's going to die at any point now. Kurt takes the only way available to him, which is to pillar up onto some trees and desperately look for an apple, because he's already got gold on. If he can make an apple, he can bring his health up a bit, and he just manages to by leaping from treetop to treetop. That's brought him up to 2.5 hearts, and he decides he can't hang around to fight Beef in this state, so he decides to make skyways across the treetops, out to the sea, get a boat, get away from the area entirely. Now, while it's very unstealthy, it was effective in keeping him out of the range of any of the mobs below him. He once again tried to start a forest fire. It didn't really take fire, as a lot of people know now has been nerfed quite badly. I didn't realise how badly it had been nerfed, because he did light up quite a few areas there, and it did fail to catch. So Kurt is off into the sea and unconsciously ends up finding his way back to his original spawn base that he created after he swam ashore the first time. Now, at the end of that episode, he decides he's going to go after Doc, because he knows roughly which direction Doc went in, because they both spawned on a very small island at the corner of the map. And so he figures he'll backtrack after him and go after him, because apparently Doc and Kurt had an agreement that they would not attack each other on the first night, because they knew roughly what direction each other were in, only keeping it fair. But in any case, they both ended up doing their own things. In any case, at the end of this episode, it ends with Kurt doing some random caving into some rather intricate looking caves, but on again a small cliffhanger with him just stating that he's found exactly what he needs, and to me that would suggest gold. He's in a forest. If he's got more gold, he can make another golden apple and bring his health up a lot more. Beef, on the other hand, is not quite sure whether Kurt was telling the truth that he's vacated the area. Just a small few little comments in chats, mostly sounding quite sarcastic. So Beef decides to vacate as well, and also heads to the east, for almost exactly following parallel to Kurt's trail until he hits the sea. For some reason, Kurt, he doesn't think to equate these pillars that have appeared over the forest with Kurt's activities, but whatever. He ends up turning south when he hits the jungle. During the jungle, he finds a nice little chicken, so he's got some stuff there for making bows and arrows and so forth. Hasn't found his string yet, so he's still got nowhere to go. Ends up doing some more random caving, hopefully he's going to find some gold. At the moment, he's trending towards the south. I believe at one point he suggests the idea of going after Doc. I don't know if he knows Doc is in that direction, but at the moment, if he carries on hugging the coast like that, he's going to end up at Doc's base. However, Doc has now vacated that base. Doc started the episode again doing some farming. He found some pigs, managed to bring a couple of them back to his base, and was breeding them. And he managed to get some little bit of iron together, and he's going to go after Kurt. This is where we find out that they had an agreement not to attack each other on the first night. At this point, Doc's methods are a bit of a mystery to me. He's still using a few wooden tools, even though the cobble, at the very least, is on hand. He's managed to get some bread, so he's not going to starve to death this time. But he knows he's going to go after Kurt now, and he knows that there was an island they both spawned on, one way after another, so he's going to try and follow that direction. But rather than make a boat, which would seem the obvious thing, he's on the very edge of a jungle biome. There are massive trees surrounding him almost on all sides. He decides to swim back to the island rather than make a boat, which I don't understand. However, he does eventually. It takes him most of a day to swim there and swims north towards Kurt's base. He does find Kurt's original crafting table that he made on the shore, and then starts digging in directly beside it, straight tunnel through the land, ending to get to the other end of this island. Now, again, spawn map, this is not exactly a small island. It is part of a main continent that's been cut off on one side, and he is pretty much digging directly over the top of the caves that Kurt had previously explored. So they may end up going straight past each other here, but they are probably within about 50 blocks of each other. If one of them ceases crouching or looks in the right direction at the right time, they're probably going to be able to see each other. Doc is being very, very cautious in this case, though. He is crouched the whole time, whereas Kurt is running around. I'll probably be running around again soon. If it is gold that he's found, he'll be above ground again, looking for apples. Last but definitely not least, I'm going to throw in a couple of details about Good. He has finally lost some health due to a spider which seems to be immune to arrows. If you can go back and watch the video, he fires an arrow at it, it bounces off a spider. I didn't even know that was possible, so I'm going to presume it's a server glitch. He's only down 1 heart there, but still. He's managed to expand his wheat farm and is intending to move south, though if on his wandering around the area, he does seem to have just missed what looks like a testificate village on the map, so might have missed out some useful resources there. In any case, at the end of this episode, it's ending with Badge on 2 hearts, Beef on 4, Doc M on 1, Good on 9, and Kurt on 2.5. No huge cliffhangers this time, other than the general directions where people are intending to go. A couple of nail-biting moments with people's zones coming very close to each other, but no one has actually bumped into each other again yet, past Good and Beef. There's a couple of small notes I want to make. I mean, we may see some tidying up around Good's base when the next episode starts, because in expanding his wheat farm he did unleash a torrent of water, which may have gone down, and he may have lost some chickens in that chicken farm. They may have swum up the water and escaped, so he may have to do a bit of clearing up there. If he does decide to go after making his portal, I'm really hoping he uses some more iron and makes a few more buckets to bring it back more than 1 bucket at a time, because he might just be able to make a portal in the entire length of the next episode if he's only going to keep doing it 1 bucket by 1 bucket. I really hope I'm not the only Monty Python fan who's been watching this episode, because when Badge asked if the wolf that killed Paws was wild, I was really desperately hoping that someone in the chat would answer, "Wild? It was furious!" Also notice that Badge appears to be suffering some lag problems. There's a lot of delayed hits and glitchy blocks occurring to him, and likewise Beef has been suffering some chunk loading problems. He's had to stop his recorder just to let the chunks load before he can carry on, which is I'm sure it can't. It's not upsetting the flow in a huge way, but I'm sure it can't be. It must be a bit of a weight on the mind of the players if they're not quite sure whether, if they got turned off for a split second, what's going to happen. You can't be sure. Now, at the end of the last episode, I was really quite convinced that this episode would involve more portal physics, more jumping into the nether, more interaction between portals bringing people together and make it a much more of a mess than it turned out to be. And one of the issues that's been brought up in this and other people's videos has been that how exactly do you stop someone? I mean, there's got to be some tactics involved in portal usage. And I've been thinking that one of the possibilities, if you can make the portal first, or if you can gain control of a portal in the nether, one of the things you could possibly do to it is cover it in lava. Now obviously this would reduce its use to a lot of people unless you have fire protection potions, but that's not entirely the case. I mean, there were ways of hiding bases before pistons came along in Minecraft, mostly involving railway carts, the mine carts. You'd have a curtain of lava, or a curtain of water if you really want to show what you were doing, but there's really no point in that. You'd have a curtain of lava with a minecart on a small bit of track behind it, and you would know where to click in the lava for you to instantly transported to being inside the minecart. Then you stand up at the minecart and you'd be inside. You'd get past that veil of lava, and that's a good possibility here. If you get to the nether first, you create an envelope of lava around the portal. Just dig a trench around it so it doesn't interrupt the actual function of the portal. Set a minecart outside it. You teleport in. You know where in this anonymous window of lava to click to get you out of it. However, anyone else turns up, they well, for the first time they do it, they're pretty panicked. Second time, if they're really clever, they might think, no, there must be a way through this, and start clicking at random. They might find it, but they wouldn't know exactly where to look. So it would still restrict their ability to use it by quite a heavy degree. And during that time, though, if you set up a bunker, say, if you started in the middle of the map, you've got a high probability of being the only portal that's going to get into the Nether. If you think that's going to cover almost all but the very far corners of the map, so you have likely complete coverage. There must be a law of decreasing returns on the number of portals you're likely to see uninterrupted in the Nether because of this map's dimensions. So you set up a portal in the Nether, set up a bunker. Anyone who appears in that, you can fire arrows through the veil of lava, which will then be flaming arrows, which either cause them damage, knock them back into the lava. They may only be there for maybe 6 seconds or so while the portal cycles and they end up teleporting out again, but you can still do them a lot of damage. But of course you ask, well, how would you end up using a portal to escape the Nether then? You really couldn't. You wouldn't be able to get back out again. Well, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe if you set up a self-sustaining enough forward base, you can just wait the entire game out there. But of course that may not be very convenient. Now, you can obviously either get the fire protection potions that you walk through the lava unharmed, or possibly put a block of cobblestone up and forwards of where the lava source block might be on top of the portal. And then all you need to do, if you want to use the portal yourself, is climb up the side of the portal, put a block in front of that. It will block the lava in that specific position, wait for it to drain, go through, then knock the block out from below and teleport out, which should just about work within the time frame you'll have. Likewise, the same strategy could work in the overworld. There's no real differences in the behaviour of lava to this degree in the overworld, so however, it'd probably be more advantage to stake it out in the Nether than it would the overworld, because there's far less chance of someone sneaking up on you in the Nether if you've got the first portal there. And of course, a good way of testing if you've got the first portal there is just use the portal you got in with, because the relative positions of the two portals, it will always link back to the portal that spawned it. If you've got any other tactical ideas on either portal abuse or other things that might be advantages in the playing of this game, I would love to hear them. I say, not a Minecraft player yet, but if anything has tempted me to buy this when the new computer's actually working, then this is it. This is really, really it. Anyway, I'd love to have some comments, love to have some feedback, love to know about any other ideas you've had about how other people should be playing this map, how other people might play in this map, because I'm sure this is not going to be the only team we end up doing this series. I've tried to get myself a little bit tidier than last time, can't do much about the set, but anyway, things are always going to be on the up, hopefully, always keep things improving. Again, sorry about the quality of the sound last episode, the camera did not like the encoding, and, well, frankly, it's not a camera really designed for doing video blogging, so it's doing very good for what it is. Anyway, see you next time. Yeah, like if you liked. Thank you very much. Kurt J. Mack has had a bit of a hard time, but he's probably the only one who has come out of this episode. Of all the players who have started it, picked up, and there were some nail-biting incidents in this episode, particularly if you're watching. He treks far to the east and almost comes across Good's. Altogether, this episode has ended with all the players involved. As things.